Welcome to the Hank Haney Podcast, recording here on nofilter.net. You can also find the Hank Haney Podcast. You can view it on YouTube TV, Hank Haney channel there for the Hank Haney Podcast. And you can hear the Hank Haney Podcast on iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. So check it out. Appreciate everybody watching and everybody listening. Today's topic on the Hank Haney Podcast, this is my favorite topic, obviously, because it's the one everybody talks about. PGA Tour Public Investment Fund, LIV. A little update on that, and a lot of stuff coming out in the last week. And I wanted to kind of give my thoughts as I collect them on this subject that has dominated the world of golf. The podcast today is brought to you by Bet Online. It is your number one source for the NBA and the NHL playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of the over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. And don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV. You get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. And that's a deal you can't pass up right there. Bet Online, the game starts here. BetOnline.ag is where you go for that. All right, at the PGA Championship, all anybody was getting asked in the press conferences was about the LIV merger, the whole thing. Then the news comes out that, Rory wasn't going to be on the board. First he was off the board, then he's going back on the board, then he was off the board. They didn't want him on the board. Some guys didn't want him on the board. Who's the guys that don't want him on the board? A lot of guys didn't want him on the board. The whole thing's, and then they interviewed Tiger. And Tiger ain't going to give you anything. And, he made it sound like, they're kind of progressing, but it's not moving fast. I mean, he just was like he's playing a negotiating game with the whatever they got going on here, but he's going to try to make it sound like the players aren't kind of for this or whatever. Everything's a negotiation, and it's just like it's hard to tell what's really going on. But the feeling that I got was at the PGA was this thing probably ain't going to happen. Now, I think the players were thinking when the PGA first came up with this deal, and the Monahan and the PGA, the commissioner, and they're going to merge or whatever with Public Investment Fund. Everybody's, there goes LIV. It's not going to be around. Well, let me tell you where LIV is going. I've said this before. LIV is going nowhere is where LIV is going. It isn't going anywhere. There's going to be LIV. Okay. So that's a non-negotiable deal with Yasser from the Public Investment Fund. There's going to be LIV. I got to be honest with you. When I look at LIV, and I'm a big LIV fan because I'm a fan for golf. I'm a fan for the players. I like that the players have more money. I like that golfers have more options. I like that LIV is hitting a younger audience. I like watching LIV. I like watching the PGA Tour. I like watching it all. So I'm a fan of LIV. I don't get it. Like I'm having trouble getting it. I'm really having trouble getting it. Like they've been 2 years, and where are their sponsors? I heard about all this, teams are going to be worth so much, and they sold the players on this whole thing. Your franchise is going to be worth this and worth that. And like they hadn't sold one of those things yet. I mean, I'm just saying, like maybe they are going to be worth something. Maybe they're going to be worth a lot. Maybe it's just, but where's there a sign that this is going to happen? Why are there no sponsors? the TV I'm not too worried about because they got streaming and the whole thing, and I think they're reaching a bigger audience than people are giving them credit for sure, more than the corrupt golf media is giving them credit for. But I don't get and how many players do they have? I mean, I like watching them because I know them. But how many players do they have on LIV? Like really, really like players, like right, like who they got? I mean, they got Rahm and they got Koepka and they got Bryson DeChambeau. Uh, they got Cam Smith. He won his major. He feels like he's kind of I'm good. I got my major. I got my money. I'm good. I'll do a little fishing, play a little golf. I'm kind of good. DJ, kind of not playing good this year. Kind of, I mean, like, he not on the front side of his career. It doesn't seem like, motivation wise. I don't think he's on the front. Rahm's for real. There's no doubt. Rahm hadn't played good, and everybody wants to blame it on LIV, but Bryson's playing good. He's LIV. Rahm's just, Rahm's a guy. Let me talk about him for a second. He's a guy that this kind of little have a little slump somewhere is a little, that's pretty predictable. Like he doesn't, like I don't think he has a coach. Now I'm not saying you have to have a coach that changes you all around, and he's got a heck of a game. He's an unbelievable player. But who's monitoring him? Like when he gets off, he seems to me like he just kind of doesn't, he's just got to just play his way out of it is all he can do. And I don't see how that's a good formula. I just don't. I think you got to have, even if you got a funky move, like Jim Furyk had a funky move, but his dad always coached him. Maybe his dad's probably the only guy that knew what would ever know what to say to him because he's watched that swing his whole life, and it's different. Rahm's swing's different, but when he gets off, he can't see himself. He can feel what he's doing, but he can't see himself. How do you put it back together when it falls apart a little bit? How do you put it back together? And the answer is this is kind of the first time it's kind of had that falling apart kind of deal, and he hadn't really been able to put it back together much. Like he hadn't won all year, and he's not a big fan of the format 54 holes at LIV. So people say, he wishes he didn't go over there. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he's wishing he didn't go over there. I think he's hoping that something gets worked out because he's young and he wants to play some more, and he could use another place to play. He won't turn down that money, and he shouldn't have turned down that money. That kind of money, you don't turn that kind of money down. But he's got to put his game, back on the top level where it should be, and that's easier said than done. But he will, and he's a player. There's no doubt about it. But there's that LIV's got. This is a point I was trying to make. LIV's got a lot of guys that I like them. I like those guys, but they got a lot of guys that just, they're not. They are far from the prime of their career. I'm talking about, a lot of guys. They got a bunch of guys. Like they got some good players. There's no two ways about it. They got the Koepka, they got the Rahm, they got the Bryson, they got they got some. They got good players. They got Taylor Gooch, a good player. Joaquin Neiman's a great player. They got some good players, but they got a bunch of guys. A bunch of guys that are backside of their career or past the backside of their career, like 1 foot off the tour. Realistically, and like, how do they what do they do with these guys? Like, they can't keep having these guys out there shooting what they're shooting. They got to replace them. So how do they get guys to go? I don't know. I don't get it. Like, how do they get guys to come on LIV? Just keep writing more checks. Here's 25 million bonus, 20. But the only guy that's going to take that, is a backside of his career guy, anyways. And it seems to me like they already got a bunch of those guys. So did they start writing big checks again? I'm having trouble getting it. So my point is, I think LIV, it ain't going away. I get that. They got all the money in the world. Um, but they need something. Like they need to do something with the PGA Tour, and I think the PGA Tour needs it too. So I think that both sides need it, and that's why it's hard for me to figure out, like, why is this not happening? Because both sides need it. But then, you hear everybody talking. It's like, well, this thing might not be happening. And I get it, because the players, you see these players that are all negotiated now, these are all guys that turned down a bunch of money. And as much as they might have it in their mind to do the right thing, it's human nature, and you're going to think, what's in it for me? And that's just how people think. I mean, let's come on, let's not kid ourselves. Whenever you look at a situation, you think, okay, how's this going to affect me? And every player is doing it. All these players on the board are doing that, and they're all guys that turned down a bunch of money. So they're thinking, well, I turned down all that money, and they're all worried about guys coming back, that got the money. They're jealous, the guy's got the money, and now he's going to come back. And I don't think some of these guys even want to come back. I don't think they care. There's a couple of them that might. I think they need them back. I don't think that's the answer, though. I think they gotta have something more. I've said this before. They got to figure this. This thing needs to be reinvented a little bit. Professional golf needs to be reinvented. They got way too many tournaments, for sure. They gotta focus on that, and make these things more compelling. The PGA was great, the PGA Championship, but it just goes to show you 4 real tournaments. I've said this for 2 years. There's only, everybody says LIV's exhibition. They're all exhibitions. There's 4 real tournaments. That's what there are. And they had a good one at the PGA, and hopefully they'll have another good one at the US Open, another good one at the Open Championship. And the Masters is good. Scotty Scheffler won. You have 4 good majors. That's all you got. That's what you got. They got to figure out a way to have more than four good tournaments. And I don't think it's just as simple as just, if we got everybody playing together. I don't know if that's the case. So I'm sure they've got some kind of plan. They're not sharing it, but at the Colonial, it would Charles Schwab or whatever they call it, down there at Colonial, and that's the one that's going on now. And down there, they interviewed like Jordan Spieth, and of course, nobody, they don't want to talk about the tournament. They want to talk about, LIV and, PGA Tour and Public Investment Fund. That's all they've been talking about for 2 years. So they bring in Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth, now all of a sudden he gave a little, he had Tiger at the PGA Championship giving a kind of a negative view of things. Acting like nothing's happening, or barely happening, or sort of happening, or maybe happening, and then but not too close to happening. And then you get then you get Jordan Spieth at the Colonial, and he sounds like, whoa, man, everything's going great. We're making progress, and there's progress. But then he says we should, things will come out in the next couple of months. Well, I mean, I thought they're going to have this thing done by the end of the year last year. Then they're going to have it done by the Masters. Now it's a couple more months. It's almost June. So what's that? July, August, we're going to have it done. So that's the end of the season. So but you're not going to do anything before next year anyway. So, maybe that's fine. Maybe that's not a bad timing deal on it. But Spieth was really positive, and he said, and I've said this before, this is where I think it could end up. Now, I'm not getting, super encouraged by everything I've been seeing, but I said I think it could end up where Spieth said. Spieth said, I think golf could end up better than it's ever been. And that's coming from a guy that's on that, he's on the board, the PGA Tour board. But this PGA Tour board thing, wow. I mean, the 2 board members, Jimmy Dunn and this other guy, Hurley, they quit. Dunn was the guy that brought Public Investment Fund to the table. He's out. Rory said that was a bad thing when he got out. Of course, he's buddies with Dunn, and he's hearing everything. And they bumped him out, Dunn, and now the other guy's out. So that's two guys that are out, and the players are all like now. It's like the players have more votes than anybody. I mean, do these guys really want that? I mean, do they really want to be negotiating this thing? I mean, what what background do they have in this? I mean, like what you want you want a player they got no confidence in their commissioner. So the players are not going to do it, and they're going to not they're turned they're turned businessmen. I mean, these guys are golfers. They got one employee, barely a caddy, and they're gonna make these kind of decisions. Wow. I mean, that's a wow. I mean, that is a big wow. But Spieth said it's he thinks it's gonna work out good. I wonder don't you wonder who's making a decision? I mean, is the commissioner making it? Is he pushing somebody? I mean, the guy that's screwed this whole thing up to begin with? I mean, is he doing it? Is Tiger doing it? Like, what? How does he know what to do? He's the greatest player ever, but that doesn't mean he's he's a commissioner. Is Tiger's agent Steinberg? Is he driving who's driving? It's so hard. I wonder who's driving the bus. The players? This is the darndest thing ever. But I heard Padraig Harrington, and he was talking about, hey, the PGA was great, and we really miss Bryson DeChambeau being on the tour, his personality. He said we even miss Patrick Reed. So now all of a sudden, and he was a hardliner, they shouldn't come back and whatever. Now he's softened his stance. Rory's stance has changed a bunch, and maybe Spieth's now saying things are going pretty good. Who knows? It just this thing is like a roller coaster. Now maybe that's how big negotiations are. I don't know, but this is a roller coaster. You're like 1 minute it's on, next minute it's off. It's probably not going to happen. Then next thing you know, Spieth's out there talking like it's going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to golf. I hope it is. I get the feeling it could be, and I'm dying to know what it possibly could be. It seems like this whole, world tour, have some tournaments where both these tours kind of combine and you have some real rivalries and you get things going like that. Maybe some kind of team thing. I don't know, but it's going to look a lot different if it ever happens. And if it doesn't look different, then things are really going to be in for a rough go, because they have to appease, and they is the PGA Tour. LIV doesn't have to do anything because they got all this money. But the PGA Tour, they got to appease these television partners. I mean, that's a big thing. And the PGA Championship was the first tournament that's had good ratings all year. Now, Masters is always going to be good. But no, there's no PGA Tour events that have had any good ratings. None. And there isn't going to be any, because the fields are they're just awful. I mean, you sugarcoat it all you want, but they're just awful. And, they got a couple good events, but even the ones that are big events, there's not enough talent to go around. So they need one another. I think they both need one another. And hopefully what Spieth said is the future. And hopefully the future is going to be a good future for golf, because golf is booming. I mean, golf is like doing so good. It's booming. I mean, I see it every day, teaching golf. I mean, the feeling is that golf, the game of golf has never been better. And, it was even when golf struggled, it's like PGA Tour did great, but they had Tiger Woods. Now it's like golf is booming. Why can't they figure out how to boom along with golf? And it seems like they should be able to do it. And hopefully they will. Anyway, that's all I got today. Remember to go to Bet Online if you want to get a little wager in. It's your number one source for NBA and NHL playoffs this season. You get every stat, every matchup, even live odds while the games are being played. And when the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind at one of the over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. And don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here, and that's betonline.ag is where you go. Hope everybody has a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. And remember, if you want to sign up for a golf lesson or register for my free instructional videos, haneyuniversity.com is where you go to do that. And we will talk to you soon on the Hank Haney Podcast.